Welcome to episode 3, Go Get 'em Agilities podcast. My name is Margaret Hughes, and I'm here with my daughter, Emma Hughes. Hi, Emma.
Hi, everyone.
We are talking today about get over it, or you'll get over it, as in you have a bad run, you have a bad training day, you'll get over it. Your dog will eventually get over the bar. So we're talking about disappointments in either training, practice, trials, and how we manage to get over it so that we can continue on without fretting a run gone wrong. So I would like to hear from you, Emma, if you have a way that you get over it.
I just say to myself, you'll get over it. And I do it for a lot of things in life, not just agility. And it happens a lot with big disappointments. So I remember, I believe it was last year. Oh, it's 2022 already. Well, it's almost March, so I should know that by now. So 2021, I had a few runs that could get me a bye into the U.S. World Team Tryouts. I think it was for EO or WAO, one of those. I wanted that really, really badly. Like, you have no idea. I sat and thought about this for forever. I was like, I'm going to get on. I got to get on. I have to get on. I have to. And I didn't. I did not do well on the courses, did not get to go to tryouts, and of course did not make the team. And I was really, really sad about that for a very long time. Not for a very long time, but, pretty beat up about it. And this is where you'll get over it happens, is because what's happened has happened. So you just kind of have to deal with it. As the Lion King says, you can either run from the past or you can turn around and face it. Something along those lines. You'll get over it is really not what people say in agility. And you'll get over it is a very 1950s, suck it up, buttercup.
That's true.
Also, can I mention you'll get over it as circumstantial? So, like, I don't know how to bring this in, but one of my gym teachers in middle school, her name was Miss Stuckey, and she had a shirt that said, "Calm down, bro. It's PE, not the Olympics." And I think that works for Argus too, where it's like, it's okay to fail. Calm down, bro. It's Argus, not EO.
So one of the things that I remember one of your coaches saying when you were on the Junior Open Team USA was, you have 5 minutes to go and be disappointed, and then you need to come back and cheer for your teammates. I thought that you handled those 5 minutes really well. I remember you taking a few moments to yourself, and then you immediately, said good job to Millie, and you went off and cheered on your teammates. Are there other ways that you help yourself to get over a disappointing run, or how do you turn around a training session that is going in a direction that you don't want it to go? Do you have some strategies for us?
Yeah, I think my strategies have changed a lot, especially in the past few years, especially with a really soft dog like Dottie, especially in training. I'll start with training because I think that's a little bit easier for me anyway to get over it. I found with training, especially with contacts, I was getting very, very frustrated, not with Dottie particularly, but just the fact that I couldn't find the right method for her. I wanted really, really fast, strong running contacts, and it's still actually a work in progress today. And I couldn't find anything, and that was really frustrating. And I found that when we would have a bad session, I'd try to end it on as good as a session as I could, good rep as I could. And then I thought, well, I have to do something to cheer myself up, because Dottie doesn't know, but I have to do something to cheer myself up. And Dottie is quite good at weave pulls. I think they're fun to watch, and I think that they're fun to teach. And so I would do weave pulls. And that's kind of why I can do kind of weird things in the weave pulls. Like I'm trying to run backwards these days. I'll center and then I'll run in the complete opposite direction. Shout out to Jordan Biggs, who can do that very, very well. In trials, it's harder because, everything that you've worked for, everything that you might doubt about yourself, if you have a poor run that's been solidified, and so it's a little bit harder to get over it in trials. Right now, I just kind of go for a walk. I'll just kind of do a little loop around the facility, and then I'll come back. Sometimes I'll go sit in the car and I'll just like eat something, and that helps as well. I never let Dottie know. Dottie does not know. Dottie has no thoughts on the matter. Dottie doesn't know what disappointment is. Dottie's never experienced it.
So when you're in practice and you are struggling with something, you'll break, rather than get into a rabbit hole and things are just keep getting, not improving, you'll go and do something else. And then will you come back to it and try it again? Do you parse it out? Do you make it easier for her?
Right. We're lucky enough to where we can go out every day, right? So generally I'll stop and I'll go out the next day. I would imagine if I were training, if I was paying to train, I would probably have a little break in the middle of doing something that I liked, and then I go back to it at the end. The issue with the end is that, you always want to have a last good rep of whatever you're doing. And so that can be a little bit of an issue if you know for a fact that you're not going to do well at the end. Like if you know your dog just doesn't get it and you need to do more research, I wouldn't. But if you're thinking maybe it's just a little break for me and not the dog, I'd go back.
Yeah. And when I'm training, I have absolutely no problem with saying, right, this isn't working, quit for the day, or, quit for an hour, quit for some time. I don't have to have that the last rep was the best rep or was a finished product at all. I know that if I leave it alone for a little bit of time and come back to it with a fresh perspective, that we'll eventually get it. So I don't have any problem with just quitting a training right in the middle.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Because I do think that we have this, old dogs can't learn new tricks drilled into our heads. But I found with Millie especially that you can always retrain. You can retrain anything, and you can train new things all the time. And so don't worry, if you end up poorly, because you can always retrain it. You really can. It's excellent. That's what's so good about agility.
So what strategies do you have though for trials? You mentioned that you'll go for a walk around the place, around whatever trial you're at. You'll go to the car, you'll get something to eat. How do you bounce back quickly? So there's quite a few times when you end a run, didn't go as planned, and you have to immediately step in and start walking another course.
Right.
You have like a switch or something that you can just like, I'll get over it, and then walk right back into the ring and walk a new course, forget about the old course? And do you have the ability to turn yourself, just say, I'll get over it and walk in?
Yeah, I used to beat myself up a lot. I used to be very, very, very harsh on myself. Never on Dottie, but a little bit on myself, like, oh, why didn't I get that? I could have gotten it. Why didn't I? For weefles or contacts or tunnels or whatever. And that didn't help because that's all I was thinking about. My next run, I'm like, oh, I was so bad on that last run. Why didn't I do it? Why didn't I do a blind or whatever? And that did not help. My next run would then be even worse, probably because I didn't remember the course. I was beating up on myself. And so that didn't help. So instead, I think a lot of teenagers like this, we like a redemption arc. And I am one of those people. I love a redemption arc. And so I kind of see the next run as okay, it's time to redeem myself. I can do this. Everybody likes an underdog, right? And so that's kind of the mentality I have. If I don't do well on the last run, if it's just been a bad day, I'll make a list of stuff that I need to do. I see this in seminars a lot too. I do this all the time in seminars. Because I remember walking into the Enya Bowl seminar thinking that I was going to rock it. And that first day, we did okay, but we did not do as well as I thought. And she gave me one of the most excellent lists for agility, for skills to work on that I've ever gotten in my life. Sarah Baker did as well with the in and in command. She was the first person to ever introduce me to in and in. And at the time I was like, oh, I don't need that. And she was so right. She's like, just train it, just see what happens. And so they have taught me to make lists. So I'll see where things went wrong in trials and in practice too. And I'll make lists of things that I need to work on.
Go and train them. Yeah, I believe that I have a built-in forgetter. I think I was born with this thing, because I can instantly let go of a run and walk onto a new course and be able to put my full concentration into this next class. Now, I have had where I went into we were going to the National Agility Championship in Oklahoma a couple of years ago. Last year, I guess it was last year.
Yeah, a few months ago.
The weekend prior, or the weekend prior to us leaving, I put myself in for all the classes the full weekend, because I wanted me to experience all that pressure of all the classes. I wanted my dog to experience being almost overloaded, so that we were mimicking what I thought would be close to the National Agility Championships. And we went down on every single run by one thing all weekend. And I remember leaving that weekend going, all right, this is not the best way to go to Oklahoma. I had prepared to have a rocking weekend. Jinx had been doing beautifully up to that point. And we had some stuff that kind of sidelined our lives at that exact moment. And so my mind was slightly preoccupied. But I remember ending that weekend going, it's okay. Just forget this weekend. Go to Oklahoma and enjoy yourself. And we went to Oklahoma and we were one run away from being in finals. And I was so proud of him. And it was just one mistake, one tiny mistake in the final hybrid run that kept us out of finals. But I remember thinking, don't let last weekend bother you in the least, because it is a snippet of what we had done over the full year. So yeah, having a built-in forgetter for me is definitely a key element.
And I think it's also important to have different levels of you'll get over it. I know that I have not gotten over quite a few EOJ runs, and I lay awake at night. I'm like, oh man, why didn't I get that? But I think as long as that it doesn't affect your career, I think you'll be okay. Because for national events and for international events, it can be kind of a pain, when you've gone all this way and there's just one little thing that you missed. Especially, if you don't redeem yourself, like I was
saying. Odds are so against you, though, right?
Oh, really, really is. Everybody's there for a reason, right? You are there because you are eligible to win, right? You are there for a reason. You are there because you can win.
Right.
So, yeah. I think for new agility handlers, you'll get over it is a bit hard as well, because, if it's your first time in a trial, it's your first agility dog, first time in a trial. And agility is one of the few sports where nobody really tells you if you're ready or not. You can never really know if you're ready for agility until you step into that ring.
That's true.
And so as a new person, you walk into the ring and run does not go as planned, did not go like it was in training. And you're very nervous, you're shaking. If you're me, you feel like you have to go to the bathroom, and you're like, oh man. And then your run doesn't go well, and you've just solidified that knowledge that you've been, all the doubts, all of a sudden they've come true. And so that's where you'll get over it. It's a little bit harder for beginners because, Mom and I've been doing agility for a very long time. And so, silly mistakes, I'm like, oh, we'll get that next time. It's fine. But, if you've never made those silly mistakes before, because you've never gone through a trial, you don't see them as silly mistakes. And so it's a little bit harder to get over it. So, Mom, do you have any recommendations for new people?
It might feel permanent to you, for sure, if this is your first trial and your dog went sniffing, or your first trial and your dog did zoomies. Do I have recommendations for new people? Don't quit before it happens. That's first thing. Go home and keep training, and train your dog to get over the bar in XYZ fashion. train yourself to handle as best you possibly can. And this is where it gets tough, because if you don't know how much your handling is causing the dog either stress or mistakes, then it's hard to fix that. But handling, by far, learning good handling is by far one of the best ways to get over it. To memorize your course so that you don't get lost. Memorize when you're going to put your front cross in, when you're going to call your dog their name, or an in and in, or a here. Those are some of the key elements. Now, a dog sniffing, that's a little bit more of a different kettle of
Hard to
fish.
get over.
A what?
A little bit of harder of a bar to get over it.
Well, only
I
because
just like the pun. The pun's
it's a great pun. It's a great pun. And the problem with sniffing is that you don't know if you're dealing with handler error. You don't know if you're dealing with just environmental stress. If a dog has, sniffing is one of those things that is inherently calming to dogs. And so dogs will naturally sniff not only the ground, but they'll air scent, they'll ground scent to make themselves feel better. And it's self-rewarding. So it is definitely a tough bar to get over when your dog is sniffing.
I think this doesn't have anything to do with sniffing, because I have been lucky enough to never, I've only ever had 2 agility dogs, 2.5. Jinx was kind of mine. But I've never had that issue with sniffing. And so that I was really, really lucky in that regard. But about the handling, I think there's also a little bit of thinking outside the box as well with handling, is kind of expect the unexpected. And I think this is also where kids become very, very good assets in agility, because they think of things that most people wouldn't really consider. So, be prepared, train your dog literally for anything. I used to train weave pulls. I'd send my dog into the weave pulls, and then they do cartwheels beside her. And so training that, solidifying that, means that, okay, I know she won't mess up in the weave pulls. I know she has strong weave
Well,
pulls.
when you were doing that, I remember when you would twirl, you would do a sit
Oh,
stay
yes.
and you would twirl, and you weren't twirling to proof your dog in a sit
No,
stay.
I was not.
You weren't doing that to distract
I was
your
4.
dog. You were just, that's who you were. And you naturally put that into her training regime, and it led you to do other things. And that is definitely, kids naturally throw difficult elements at the dog when they're training that they don't even know they're naturally doing. And the dogs learn within those elements. And as adults, our inhibitions of embarrassing ourselves, or just thinking outside the box, gets interrupted when we aren't willing to act a little bit like a kid in our training. And it definitely takes kids further in their agility careers, because their dogs are proofed for XYZ at home, and it helps in a trial situation as well.
Right. I can guarantee that me twirling around Millie while she was in a sit stay was a lot weirder than, say, the timer going off. Right? Millie was probably more weirded out by the fact that this tiny child is like giggling and screaming and twirling around in front of her, and she has to stay, than a timer going ready,
Right.
And so she's been proofed. I'm not saying that you have to do cartwheels in the weave pulls with your dog, but just think of weird things that you would not encounter in a trial.
Right. Just moving your hands, putting up your knees a little bit higher, or
making weird sounds, like
zigzags.
yeah,
Waving a toy, squeaking a toy. All those things definitely help generalize for the dog in other scenarios.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess the big takeaway for me is, in the you'll get over it, is 1, be gentle with yourself. 2, train, keep training, train your dog, train yourself, and learn that one run, one trial is not the end all and be all of agility, and keep going. keep going. Teach your dog to get over it. Teach yourself to get over it.
Yeah. And if you need to talk to somebody, I've been lucky enough, I can always not complain, but I can always, vent to you. So I've been lucky in that regard. But, if you really do feel like you're struggling, like this is actually taking a toll on you, find somebody to talk to. There's no shame in letting out your frustration and letting out, maybe your sadness, or, whatever it is. Just don't ever take it out on the dog. Dottie has never had a negative thought in her life. I know that, except for maybe about the cat. But Dottie does not know the word failure. She doesn't. And I do a lot. I've done a lot of bad moves on courses, just like really weird stuff that nobody should do. And so I have beat myself over that, but I've never beat Dottie over it ever. So the dog should never know to get over it. The dog should never have to get over it.
And when you do talk to me, I always encourage you to.
Yeah, you're always like, oh, come on, don't say that.
And
I always get that like wrong.
I always want to know what did go well.
Right, exactly.
Like, yeah, but this didn't go well. However, look at what did go well. Look at the distance that you got on her. Look at the sends that you got on her. Look at the difficult entrance to, a jump or a weave pull, or look at what you did pull off. Because of the 18 obstacles that are out there, it's only one out of those 18 that usually goes incorrect, which, changes the run entirely. However, 17 out of 18 of those obstacles were done correctly. Yeah. And some of them done with a lot of training put in to get some of the difficult concepts that are out there. Yeah. So when
agility is, oh, sorry, I'll let you go.
When you come off a run, disappointing or not, find something that you really liked of what your dog did.
Yeah. And I think agility is really a hard sport because you can't blame anybody but yourself, right? You really can't. Like Dottie is to the point now where if something goes wrong on course, I'd be willing to put money down that it's me, right? So you can't blame the obstacles. You can't blame the dog. You can blame the judge, but that's in poor taste. And you can't blame, the environment because it's always different. So you can never predict it. And so it is hard to know that every time, you come off that run with an NQ, that it's like, yeah, that was me. That was me with bad training, or me with inadequate training, or me with a bad handling decision. But so that is hard. It really is. But when that cue does come along, oh boy. Yeah, you get over it real fast when that cue does come out.
You got to get over the NQs to go find the cue, for sure. Well, thank you, Emma, for joining me on another Go Get 'em Agility podcast.
Happy trails.